And I can tell you something that might surprise you. Homes built 80 or 100 years ago had brilliant design solutions that we completely abandoned just to follow a television trend. You know what I see every single week? Homeowners who spent $15,000, $20,000, sometimes $30,000 knocking down walls to create that perfect open floor plan they saw on Property Brothers. And now they are asking me how much it costs to put the wall back. Today, I'm going to show you 10 real problems with open concept living. These are not opinions. These are complaints I hear constantly from people who actually live in these spaces. At the end of each one, I will give you my verdict, whether it has a fix or whether you just made a very expensive mistake. But real quick, before we begin, tell me in the comments where you are listening from. And also, if you care about making smart decisions with your home, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. My goal is to help you build real equity instead of just burning cash on upgrades that look nice but add zero long-term value. Alright, let's get into it. 1. The gymnasium echo. Let me paint you a picture. You've got 12-foot ceilings, beautiful porcelain tile floors, concrete accent walls, zero rugs because someone told you they collect dust mites. Your space looks absolutely stunning in photos, and it sounds like a basketball court. You have to yell to be heard from the kitchen. Movie dialogue sounds muddy and distorted. Conversations become exhausting because your brain is working overtime trying to filter out all that echo and reverberation. I've had clients tell me they stopped having dinner parties because talking in their own dining room gave them headaches. Why did this happen? Here is the physics. Sound waves travel in straight lines until they hit a surface. Hard surfaces like tile, concrete, and glass reflect that sound right back. In a small room, the reflections get absorbed quickly by furniture and soft materials. But in a wide open space with high ceilings, that sound travels a long distance before bouncing back, creating echo and reverb. Old homes had thick rugs, heavy velvet curtains, lower ceilings with crown molding, and separate rooms with doors. That was not just decoration, that was acoustic engineering. It absorbed sound and created intimacy. My verdict: this one has a fix, but it's going to cost you. Professional acoustic panels run between $10 and $30 per square foot. Or you can do what your grandparents did, add area rugs and heavy curtains. It's cheaper and works just as well. The irony is, you're spending money to solve a problem that walls solved for free. Your couch smells like last night's dinner. You fried fish on Friday. It's Monday, and your living room still smells like a seafood market. You cooked bacon on Sunday morning, and now your throw pillows have that sweet, greasy smell that just won't go away no matter how many candles you light. I had a client, a lovely family who loved to cook Indian food. Curries, tandoori, the works. A beautiful open-concept kitchen flowed into the living room, a gorgeous home. But after 2 years, they called me because they wanted to sell. They told me they could not get the smell out of anything. The curtains, the couch, even the carpet upstairs somehow smells like turmeric. Why did this happen? Kitchens used to be closed off for a reason. The range hood would capture cooking odors before they could escape. Now, even with a 400 cubic feet per minute range hood properly installed and ducted to the outside, some of that smoke and smell escapes into the living area before it gets sucked up and it settles into your fabrics, your couch, your curtains, your rugs. Everything becomes a smell sponge. My verdict: partial fix at best. First, make absolutely sure your range hood is ducted to the exterior, not recirculating. Recirculating hoods just filter the air and blow it right back into the room. They are basically useless for strong cooking odors. Second, always turn on the hood before you start cooking, not after. But honestly, if you cook a lot, especially anything with strong aromatics, you are going to struggle with open concept. That's just the reality. 3. The invisible grease film. This is the one nobody tells you about until it is too late. When you cook, especially when you fry or saute, microscopic grease particles go airborne. They are invisible. You cannot see them. In a closed kitchen, those particles land on the kitchen walls and cabinets. You wipe them down once a week and you are good. In an open concept, that grease travels. It floats across your great room and settles on your sofa, your curtains, your bookshelf, your TV screen. You do not notice it at first, but after a year of cooking, everything starts to feel sticky. You run your finger across a shelf 10 feet from the stove and it comes back with a thin film of something. That is aerosolized cooking grease. Why did this happen? Basic physics. No walls means no barriers. The grease goes wherever the air goes. And in an open floor plan, the air goes everywhere. My verdict, no real fix. You can upgrade to a more powerful range hood. Maybe upgrade the hood to 600 or 900 CFM, but you are never capturing 100%. You are just going to clean more, a lot more. Your cleaning routine in an open concept kitchen needs to extend way beyond the kitchen. That is the price you pay. 4. Nowhere to hide the mess. Remember that Pinterest photo that made you fall in love with open concept? The kitchen had a pristine marble island with 3 decorative lemons, an artisanal cutting board, a single cookbook propped up for display. Nothing else. Now look at your kitchen. Dirty dishes waiting in the sink, kids' backpacks on the island, a stack of mail you've been meaning to sort through for 2 weeks, the coffee maker, the toaster, the instant pot that does not fit in any cabinet, the fruit bowl with 1 banana that is turning brown because you forgot about it. And here's the thing. Your guests see all of it from the couch, while you are trying to cook and clean and entertain simultaneously, sweating through your shirt. I will never forget this one showing I did. Beautiful home, probably $2 million. Open concept kitchen, of course. The homeowner was so stressed about keeping it clean for showings that she basically stopped cooking for 3 months. They ate takeout every night because she could not handle the idea of anyone seeing a dirty pan. Why did this happen? Before open concept, you closed the kitchen door and the chaos disappeared. Guests stayed in the living room or dining room. They did not see the war zone behind the scenes. Now you are living on a permanent stage with no backstage. My verdict. The modern solution is the messy kitchen or prep kitchen. It is a second hidden space behind the main kitchen where you do the actual cooking and hide the mess. The pretty kitchen is just for show, but that requires serious square footage and budget that most people do not have. For the rest of us, accept that you are going to live in a constant state of cleaning, or lower your standards. I am not here to judge. 5. The thermostat war. Wintertime. You crank up the heat. The warm air you are paying good money for rises straight up to your 14-foot ceiling. Your feet are still cold. You bump the thermostat up another 2 degrees. Still cold down where you actually live. But it is toasty up near the ceiling fan you cannot reach. Summertime. You are trying to cool down a space the size of a small airplane hangar while the afternoon sun blasts through those gorgeous floor-to-ceiling windows that look so amazing in the listing photos. Your energy bill? Through the roof, literally. Why did this happen? In a house with separate rooms, you close the door to the guest bedroom nobody is using, and you do not heat it. You only condition the spaces you are actually in. In open concept, it is all or nothing. You are heating and cooling the whole volume, even if you are only using a corner of it. HV, AC technicians. I have talked to say open floor plans typically consume 5 to 20% more energy than equivalent square footage divided into rooms. And if you have those vaulted ceilings, it is even worse. My verdict, ceiling fans help push warm air down in winter. Smart zoning systems can help too, but they add thousands to your HVAC installation cost. Some people are installing mini splits in specific zones to supplement. But again, you are spending money to fix a problem that walls fixed for free. The radical solution? Put up a wall. I have had multiple clients do exactly that after a few winters of high heating bills. 6. The work from home nightmare. You are on a Zoom call with your boss. Your partner opens the refrigerator and suddenly they are in frame. Your child puts on Bluey in the living room and now you cannot hear anything. The dog barks and everyone in the meeting hears it. You try to mute, but you are already mid-sentence. Welcome to working from home in an open concept house. I had a client who works in finance, a serious job with important calls all day. They bought a beautiful open concept home in 2019. Then 2020 happened. You know what he ended up doing? He was taking calls from his car in the garage in January in Chicago because it was the only quiet place in his own house. Why did this happen? Open concept was designed for an era when people went to offices. The home was for relaxing, entertaining, family time. Nobody anticipated that millions of people would need a quiet, private, professional space inside their own house. The pandemic exposed this problem brutally. And look at the data. Architect surveys showed demand for open floor plans dropped from 61% in 2015 to around 33% in recent years. That is nearly half. People figured out that open concept does not work when you need to actually focus. My verdict. If you work from home more than 2 days a week, you need a room with a door. Period. There is no workaround. Some people install sliding glass doors to maintain the open visual while gaining acoustic privacy. That works. Others convert a closet into a micro office. Whatever you do, you need walls and a door. There is no zoom filter for your family walking through the background. Number 7. The appliance symphony. The range hood is whirring. The dishwasher is running through its cycle. The refrigerator compressor kicks on. The washing machine in the adjacent laundry room is on spin cycle. Maybe someone is using the blender. And all of that noise is competing with the movie you are trying to watch 10 feet away. You keep turning up the volume. Now the dialogue is blasting, but you still cannot make out what they are saying over the dishwasher. Why did this happen? Those noises always existed. Your appliances have always been loud, but there used to be a wall, sometimes two, between them and your living space. Now there is nothing. My verdict. Buy quieter appliances. Modern high-end dishwashers operate at under 45 decibels, which is basically a whisper. The same is true for refrigerators and washing machines. But high-end means expensive. You are paying a premium for silence. Again, spending money to solve a problem that walls solved for free. Sensing a pattern here? Section 8. Know where to put the sofa. This is the one nobody thinks about until the furniture truck shows up. You knock down the wall. Now you have this gorgeous, massive, open space. It looks amazing. But wait, where does the sofa go? A sofa needs a wall behind it to feel anchored. It is a psychological thing. Without that wall, your couch just floats in the middle of the room like a lost island. You might push it against the kitchen island, which looks awkward, or you angle it in a corner, which wastes space and looks like you gave up. I have walked into so many open concept homes where the furniture arrangement just does not work. The TV is too far from the seating. The dining table is floating in no man's land. Nothing feels intentional. Why did this happen? Architectural renders never show real furniture at real scale. They show tiny, perfectly proportioned pieces in huge spaces. When your actual sectional sofa arrives, the one that is 10 feet long, you realize there is nowhere logical to put it. The room looked huge because it was empty. My verdict. A good interior designer can create zones using area rugs, lighting, and strategic furniture placement. But that requires planning before you knock down the wall, not after. If you already have the problem, consider a half wall, a large bookshelf as a room divider, or a console table behind the sofa to create that sense of definition. It is not perfect, but it helps. 9. The lighting nightmare. You need bright task lighting to cook safely. You want dim, warm lighting for movie night. You would like something romantic for dinner parties, but it is all one giant space connected to one light switch. So you are cooking under the same light you are trying to watch the TV under. Either the kitchen is too dark to see what you are chopping, or the living area is too bright to see the screen. Someone is always compromising. Why did this happen? In separate rooms, each space has its own lighting, optimized for its specific function. The kitchen gets bright lighting. The living room gets ambient lighting. The dining room gets a chandelier on a dimmer. In open concept, you have to somehow make one lighting scheme work for 3 different functions at the same time. My verdict. This one actually has a good solution. Invest in layered lighting with multiple circuits and independent dimmers. Pendant lights over the island on one circuit. Recessed lights in the cooking area on another circuit. Living room lamps and wall sconces on a third circuit. It costs more than a single switch setup, but it is worth every penny. This is one of the few open concept problems you can solve elegantly with money and planning. 10. The cost of regret. And here's the final irony. The one that really stings. You paid to knock down that wall. It could be anywhere from $1,000 for a simple non-load-bearing wall, up to $15,000 if it was structural and required steel beams. That money is gone. You lived with all these problems for 5 years. The echo, the smells, the grease, the energy bills, the lack of privacy, and now you want the wall back. Building a new interior wall. Costs an average of $2,000. But once you add electrical outlets, finishes, paint that matches the rest of the house, maybe a door, you are looking at $4,000 to $6,000. You paid to tear it down. You paid to put it back. And in between, you paid higher utility bills, bought acoustic panels, purchased air purifiers, cleaned grease off your furniture every week, and dealt with constant noise and lack of privacy. The open concept was not free. It was a loan. You are still paying back with interest every month you live there. Open concept isn't inherently bad. It's bad when you do it without thinking. Before you knock down a wall, live in the house for a year. Understand how your life actually flows in that space. Cook 100 meals, work from home, host a few parties. Then ask yourself, do I really need this wall gone, or do I just want the Instagram photo? Before we wrap up, let me tell you what I'm seeing in higher-end homes and new construction. The trend is moving toward what designers call broken plan or hybrid layout. It's not fully open, it's not fully closed. It's intentional zones with flexible separation. Glass pocket doors that disappear when you want openness and close when you need privacy. Kitchen pass-throughs with sliding panels. Half walls that define spaces without closing them off. Strategic placement of large furniture as soft dividers. The idea isn't to go back to the tiny dark rooms of 1920, it's to find the middle ground. Connection when you want it. Privacy when you need it. The best of both worlds. That's smart design. And smart design doesn't follow trends. It solves problems.